kindness is always appreciated, but kindness with someone that you were previously just competing with, in a sense, I mean, you left an impression on me, my friend. Fitness is important, but what's more important is the cascade of benefits that it invites into your life. Every time I fall off the horse, I get back on, and I'm determined to do something bigger and better for other people.
All right, hey guys, welcome back to the studio. Today we have Michael Federer, VP of the American Minute. Welcome to the studio, Mike.
Mike, it's great to be here with you. This has been a long time coming for us.
Yeah, it has. A good 3 years now.
Has it been 3 already?
It has, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so just to give the audience a little bit of context, Mike and I met through the men's health and fitness competition for Muscle and Fitness magazine.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes, I was a personal trainer since age 19, and I lived in St. Louis. I was a health and wellness director, and some of my previous clients had kind of entered me into this competition, and it was a lot of fun. I do feel like it changed a little bit near the more competitive rounds, but that's also where I met you, Mike, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Right back at you. And it was an interesting competition. It was very long, and we had to jump through a lot of hoops for that competition. Ultimately, we were raising some dough for Homes for Wounded Warriors. And it was also a way for me to get some attention to my nonprofit. With the special needs community, and another nonprofit I was connected to, themagicmission.org.
That's right.
Yes.
I feel like that competition was very organic at the beginning. It was just people that supported you, and it was quite a bit of fun. But like you mentioned, it did drag on a little bit longer, and in the later rounds you found out that votes could in fact be purchased.
Yes.
And that made it a little challenging to continue as kind of an organic competition.
Yeah. And actually what connected us too was I had made it into the top 1%, as did you. So for as long as that competition was, we pretty much stood the test of time. It was all social media and vote related, and you had to pay to play, right? So anyone that was voting for us had to pay. You got one free vote a day, as far as I recall, and then anything outside of that, your supporters had to pay to vote, and it went up in tiers.
That's
for
right.
How much you could give, and so it was a big ask, right? And so the bonus was those paid votes went to Homes for Wounded Warriors, and that was, that's such a fantastic organization, and so that helped move the needle forward for me to keep the competition going. And then, like as we mentioned, the competition went on for months and months, and then as I did not progress and move forward with the competition, you and I had connected through the competition. We weren't in the same heat, but I was really inspired by your profile. It was very similar to mine, so we had that natural connection. I was inspired by the things that you had shared in your profile, and what was moving the needle forward for you for the competition. So as my time in the competition came to an end, I did not progress forward beyond the top 1%, but you did, and I was happy to pay it forward by sponsoring you.
Well, Mike, I did because of you. So I just want to take this moment here to our audience here. This gentleman made such an impression on me. Now, this competition, as we mentioned, started out very organic. It's just people that you knew that supported you, and maybe some of the acquaintances that you'd met along the way. But it was a lot of fun. These later heats, though, they got so competitive, and I was really feeling like, man, the internet is not necessarily the most friendly place. And then this individual who I'd never met in person decides to not only support me by you gave me a substantial amount of votes, but you asked your supporters to help me finish the competition. And if not for you, I mean, Mike, you made such an impression on me that in the heat of competition, generosity like that, it goes so far. Kindness is always appreciated, but kindness with someone that you were previously just competing with, in a sense, I mean, you left an impression on me, my friend.
Well, I appreciate that, and vice versa. That's what inspired me to sponsor those votes for you and to get any voters that I had under my umbrella voting for you also because I thought you had a fantastic platform, and you have a history in the fitness industry. So
That's right.
you were a personal trainer. You've worked at the YMCA.
Yes, sir.
Thought maybe you'd share a little bit with the audience about your history in fitness.
Yeah, thank you for that. At age 19, I had worked several other jobs leading up to this, but I thought, you know what? I appreciate being in control in a sense. And so while my clients are the boss, during that session time, I was able to kind of dictate what happened. And being an athlete, this stuff came very naturally to me. Now, I I teach fitness for life versus fitness is life. There are so many individuals that go down this pathway of self-improvement and end up developing vanity. And it becomes, the only reason they're building more muscle is to lift a bigger piece of iron. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but if your heart posture is not in the right place, then there's a problem. If you're doing it to be better than others versus being a better version of yourself, maybe you've missed the bigger picture. So my whole thing was I want you to learn how to fill your own cup so you can begin to fill other people's cups.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. And that was another reason why I was happy to sponsor you, because you shared that in your profile. And I believe the same. So with my aesthetics, I was recovering from an injury. That's what brought aesthetics, into my realm. I was trying to correct a back injury, which led to a six pack because, you work on your core to fix your back. And so I'd always been athletic and more on the lean side of things, but I had never taken my fitness to the next level. And that injury that I had really helped propel me. So I had the, as we were talking a little off camera, I had the low back injury and I blew out a hamstring.
Oof.
So, and I know we have that in common.
Yes.
And the hamstring, that's a long time of recovery.
They've kind of done studies, and as far as some of the most reoccurring injuries, meaning you have it, you nurse it back to good health, but then it's still able to be agitated, hamstrings are high up on that list.
Yeah.
I ran track, and it started out as something that basically I wasn't playing another sport during track season. Football was what I wanted to play, and we found that, okay, I do decently. I can run, and I was a wide receiver and a backup quarterback. So I started out at a high school in St. Louis, Missouri, SLU High, St. Louis University High School, great high school. Now at a certain point, I ended up switching to Oakville, a public school in St. Louis County, and football was still my focus. So I would run track, but really that was just to keep me sharp and keep me fast for football season. My junior year, the summer, my best bud and I were off-roading. I was a passenger in an off-road vehicle, and my thumb was broken severely.
Wow.
And so football, it was off the table for the next year. Now, my good friend Jordan, he was our star football player. He was a defensive player. He was an Iron Man. He played both sides of the ball. I mean, Jordan, if you're watching, incredible athlete. And he didn't run track, but when he injured his neck during two-a-days, doctors come back. They say, look, Jordan, not only are you not able to play this season, but you can never play a contact sport ever again.
Wow.
This was our star player.
Yeah.
We wore wristbands that were kind of dedicating the season to him. But Jordan and I link up, and he says, Mike, let's put all of our effort into track. So here I am with a broken thumb, can't catch or throw a ball. Here he is with a neck that won't allow him to play contact sports anymore. So we think, let's pour ourselves into track. And man, I tell you what, it was a fun time running track in St. Louis. We were upset if we didn't gold medal, but Jordan was our anchor. He went from our team captain on the football team to our team leader on the track and field in track and field as well.
That's amazing. So you've always had the fire for fitness.
Yes, sir.
So yes, and you very humbly were pushed into the competition that we were in for men's health and fitness. Yes.
Well, you mentioned that you were recovering from some injuries, and at the time of that competition, I was not at my physical peak, but you were saying how that helped you push it to the next level. That helped me say, okay, look, I need to get back into it. I always keep a fitness routine,
Yeah.
but aesthetically, sometimes I'm not so worried. It's about function. As I was mentioning, I preach fitness for life versus fitness is life. Now, with that said, it's body, mind, spirit, others. We can get into that a bit, but during the competition, I thought, okay, this didn't come at the opportune time. I'm
Right.
not shredded, and but it was a good reason to kind of get me back into that space.
Yeah,
So
I felt the same. So in my profile, I had wrote about the same things about fitness for me was all encompassing, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, all those, tied up into one for me as far as keeping mentally fit and my body physically fit.
come on,
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where we aligned
yeah,
in the competition, I think, and that that's something that I still hold true to this day. I don't really push myself out of my capacity having the injuries, and then getting along in life with more experience. You don't heal as quickly as we used to. We don't recover as fast, and especially if you're carrying an injury like a hamstring or a low back injury, you know, reigniting those injuries can really take you down, and then you go down that rabbit hole of depression because you can't function like that. That's what keeps your wheels going, your gears grinding.
but sometimes when you look at the bigger picture
Yeah.
and you zoom out and you think, boy, that was terrible to go through.
Yeah.
But what it sets you on, the path that it sets you on moving forward, you can't help but think that maybe there's a bigger picture to this story, and that happened for a reason. So while we're talking injuries,
We are right in the same headspace right now because every time that that's happened to me, it was telling me to slow down. Like you talked about you and Jordan doing the 2-a-days. I was doing 3-a-days.
Yeah.
And so that was, I think, the good Lord's way of redirecting me to take a break.
come on.
So
Well, and I think to me, it's what we were talking archetypes, and I preach body, mind, spirit, others. What does that mean? Well, it means fitness is important, but what's more important is the cascade of benefits that it invites into your life. So, arguably, your physical fitness is the least important when your heart posture towards other people is most important. But if you learn that by taking care of your body, this spills into your mentality, it creates a healthy mental space, then that healthy mental space helps you capitalize on opportunities. This invites blessings into your life. And if you are a good steward of those blessings, you are soon able to bless other people. So, body, mind, spirit, others, we can get into the nitty gritty about how, let's say we have a donut or a coffee, you're going to have a little spike of dopamine. This makes you feel good. However, if you're on a pathway that is it may be more challenging, you may have more roadblocks and things to contend with, but body, mind, spirit, there's an increase in serotonin when you're on a pathway that is more meaningful. So I guess what I'm saying is by taking care of your body, you cultivate a healthy mentality. That healthy mentality allows you to capitalize on opportunities that create a better life for you. They help you find your environment, where your unique experiences and skills are going to be most appreciated. And this, you can call this being in good spirits. When you're needed in an environment and people appreciate what you bring to the table, it has an effect on you. And then ultimately what you want is to have a heart so full of love that you can start to pour into other people. So body, mind, spirit, others.
well, and this is why you resonate so much with me because as we've gotten to know each other over the course of a few years. I was starting my nonprofit back in 2016. That was when I was kind of going through my spiritual journey, if you will, a reawakening of sorts. After I had kind of lost my faith after the loss of my brother, as I shared with you, and then I reconnected with my faith going down my spiritual path in 2016 when I was really getting into my fitness journey also. They all aligned together at the same time. And to piggyback on what you just said, that all that was all encompassing for me. And the aesthetics, I was building my nonprofit at the time, which supports individuals experiencing disability, and working with that population with diverse needs. I had to bring my best self, and that meant heart posture, to use your reference.
And this guy has the biggest heart. I mean, what I knew it, and then I thought prior to meeting you, I thought, well, maybe I'm filling in the blanks. Maybe I think he's something he's not. No, you're the real deal, Mike.
I appreciate that.
You are focused on others. You're genuine. The inner circle, of course, it means your inner group. But I'm learning that more than that, it means what's inside of you. It's not so much your actions; it's more the intentions behind the actions. And you're involved in charities, and you're always you've got. You're talking about your homies with extra chromies,
Yes.
and you just are able to pour into everyone, no matter who they are. And I've been the recipient of that now, and I'm grateful to have you as a friend first and foremost. In talking about our life experiences, there is certainly, as painful as it is, those challenges create a story arc that really helps you dig deeper into yourself, and again, find new ways to help other people.
Yeah,
So you've
absolutely.
experienced tragedy that a lot of people have not. I'll let you decide how far you want to talk about that, but it's just seeing your resilience is such an encouragement to me.
I appreciate that, and we pretty much have no barriers in this friendship here, in this brotherhood. And I shared with you the experience of the loss of my brother, and you've recently experienced loss also. Charlie Kirk was a good friend of yours, and
That's right.
you know, part of the wellness journey for me, and I know you too, is grieving healthily. You know, how are you holding up to the process?
Well, I tell you what, I want to say that first and foremost, there's a lot of people that knew him better than I did. But when you know someone for 12 years almost, you expect to see them. He's one of few people that I knew, and I know we've got a broad audience here, and I want people to understand that I'm talking about the human being, but I had never really met a more genuine person. And it's so rare to see someone who, as they grow in influence, they grow in compassion. That is the Charlie I knew. He's unique in my life because when I met him, there's a song I appreciate. I like J. Cole, and Middle Child kind of talks about how he's the connector between the OGs and the ones coming up, and so anyway, when I met Charlie, I felt like I was big bro. I was
Yeah.
the one who could help him and open doors, and my father's a formidable historian, and in the arenas that he would have conversations, history was the currency of truth. It was very important for him to know his history. So when I met him, I thought, this is a compelling individual. I think he's the real deal. Within just a few short years, Mike, he was big bro. He was the one, helping my family, helping my father, opening doors for us. And so there's a gratitude there. And I know how divided the world is. That's not what this podcast or this conversation is about. This is about getting to know the heart of people. And I tell you what, I grew up in St. Louis. I have a completely different background and story than Charlie, but he smelt that on me. He
Yeah.
knew I wasn't from his world, but he
Right.
still loved on me.
Yeah.
He encouraged me. He could have distanced himself from me. I have a saying that at times bad boys make good men.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to kind of I know we're creative people move laterally through conversations, so we might open a few tabs here.
Yeah.
But
We're good at that.
well, when I was young, my father was a pastor, right? And so I'm so grateful for the discipline and the knowledge that I learned as a very young man. However, it didn't become meaningful to me until I went wayward, in a sense. Until I moved to St. Louis, I was the young man that was at a new school every 2 years, and so at first this apathy sets in. Why make friends? You're just going to move again in 2 years. But then you start to realize, oh, I'm getting good at making relationships. Maybe not sustaining them, but I'm getting good at creating them.
Right.
And so I was so used to this, I didn't really care what people thought about me. But bringing it back to Charlie, he could kind of see that we were completely different. But if I may, the thing about him that was so special is if you disagreed with him, he would say, well, here's a microphone. Now, I know not everyone's able to present their case as effectively as he was.
Right.
But he would give everyone an opportunity and say, hey, look, we disagree. If communication deteriorates, physical violence happens. Like I said, I grew up in St. Louis. We went. There's a lot of stories that we're gonna skip over in this podcast, but it's that was real to me. Yeah. The moment communication deteriorated, things would devolve into physical violence. So the fact that you're going to say, "Oh, we don't agree," what do you have to say about that? Here's a microphone. To me, that shouldn't be overlooked.
Oh, I agree. And we have so much in common. There's so much that we touched on, just over the course of the time that you've been here in town. And again, thank you so much for making the trip to come out here and share your story.
It's
and
my pleasure,
share
brother.
with the audience. Yeah, of course. And we had such similar upbringings with our fathers. So our childhoods kind of mirrored each other. Although I wasn't in a new school every 2 years because we were moving, I was just getting kicked out. No, no, but we had, like you said, bad boys make good men.
Yes.
And so, I appreciated the discipline that my father bestowed upon myself and my brothers, because that led me down the path that I'm walking right now.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate your father too. And I know just from getting to know you over the last few years, you're your father's biggest fan. He's your biggest fan. And I love that you guys have that dynamic and you love supporting him. And that's how, ultimately that's how you became connected with Charlie, was through the initiatives
Correct.
of your father.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that up. My father is an incredible man. To the audience, he's talking about Dr. Bill Federer, William J. Federer. He's written over 30 books now. He's the most booked speaker that I know. He's quiet about it. And as a matter of fact, before arriving here to do this podcast with you, we were on a 10 speeches in 5 days tour in Missouri. So I apologize that I'm in rare form. Usually I'd come here completely refreshed, but you afforded me a day to kind of just get to know you.
Well, I get it. You're on a world tour, man. You don't stop. You guys are a machine. Yeah, a well-oiled machine. I'm loving Bill Federer, and he's a machine. He's doing the thing.
And I'm trying to keep up with him.
Yeah.
He turned 68 this year.
Amazing.
October 1st.
He looks great. You shared that flashback photo of him on his birthday. He just had a birthday. Happy birthday.
With the mustache?
Yes. That is a great photo.
Well, there's, like I said, we've got some tabs open, but I do believe we'll circle back to all of them and close them. So stay tuned.
Yes.
Stay tuned. But regarding my father, he is a unique individual, and he's been so encouraging and patient with me, and he's so humble. I know so many speakers that I've met through him. It's been my entire life, Mike. My eyebrows don't raise often because it's hard to get me excited. He's brought me around such incredible people in such unique situations that I'm always ready for the next thing. Yeah. But what I found in that is that a lot of these people are incredible. Some of them have been mentors to me. I love many of them dearly. There are a few that I consider mentors, and I might mention those names near the end here. But my father's so humble. There was no, okay, I'm this on stage and I'm this off of stage. I mean, a lot of times he doesn't even ask for an honorarium. It's just whatever people feel led to bless him with. It's just the mission is so important to him. And so what I found was he had a very successful business, word of mouth. He would speak somewhere. People would say, wow, that was really good. I want to refer you to someone else. Then at the height of what's being referred to as cancel culture, this is a pastor's son comes up to me and he says, hey, your dad has really good content for shorts and reels, right? And I think, yeah, great. And in my head, I'm saying, no, we've got a good thing going. Why would I put it out there? Same week, another individual comes up almost verbatim, the same thing. Hey, do you know what shorts and reels are? Your father has good content for these. And I think, I'll think about it. We go to Colorado. There's a pastor that I really respect. His son is an incredible young man as well. And he goes, hey, and I kind of know what's coming.
Yeah.
Your father has good content for shorts and reels. So I say, all right, Lord, let's go ahead and start this within an hour. Someone that helps me with just the production of them. We focus on quality over quantity, so we're not posting all the time. It's not a huge tier of our business yet, but well, we've posted just over 300 times, and we're over 75,000 followers. But shout out to Sarah. She is the magic behind our reels. Thank you, Sarah, for your hard work. But anyway, this third time I say, okay, Lord, we'll do it. And we found that at a time when it could have been really damaging to the business, no, it was a new. I mean, part of that's why I'm here with you today.
Yeah.
But it was the audience is smart. If you tell a history story that parallels what people are seeing today, you don't have to explicitly talk about what's happening in the country or in the world. People say, wow, that story seems to afford us some lessons. It shows who's the protagonist and who's the antagonist when you reflect back on history.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would just post history stories. We would try to make them coincide with what's happening in the world. And the audience loved it. And, you know, we were never flagged by any algorithms that said this is inflammatory. This is nothing like that. It's just a history lesson that people could pull from it what they wanted. And anyway, that has started a whole new tier of the business. So we're doing, he's on, when he's not speaking in person, he's on a podcast. We did several of those, you know, on our Missouri tour. So we're driving from one place to the next, and we say, oh, wait, we actually have to stop here. We've got a podcast to record. But long story short, my father's so humble that he needed a herald. He needed someone to go before him and say, this is Bill Federer. He's the real deal.
Yeah.
And in that process of just trying to get his message out there, I found that the people that he works with are so genuine. Mike, they want the best for you. We were talking about heart posture earlier. They want the best for you. And they created a change in me. I think they all sensed that I was from another world. And it's fun having this podcast with you because I'm an iceberg to most people.
Well, I like that you bridge the gap, really. I think it's cool. I think it's great that you have a way of bringing people together, and that's one of your gifts, and they sense that about you. And so you're able to kind of bring two worlds together, I think.
Well, I've always said I don't want to be in the public eye if I can't be genuine.
Yeah.
I don't want to act like I'm something I'm not.
Right.
You know, we breezed over it, but you know, in St. Louis, you think you have a normal childhood, and I'll mention this one story that will kind of encapsulate it. It's my friend Mason, when I lived in Arizona, Mace Dog, if you're watching. Anyway, we're telling stories. We're with a few ladies that, you know, we're telling stories that might impress them a little bit, and each one's a little bit racier, and it's about things we've done, and then I look up and I realize I think I've told the last 3 stories.
Yes.
And I look over at Mason, and his jaw's on the floor, and he goes, "What? Did anybody look after you guys?" It's like, I had a curfew. I had, you know, and he made me realize in that moment that what we thought was a normal childhood was it gets a little rowdy in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Now, like we were saying, if you have a moral compass, those become lessons.
Right.
And you become grateful for them later in your life. And you think that I know what I'm made of. I've been tested. And so anyway, here I am. And like you said, I want to bring two worlds together. I want to cast a wide net. I don't want to pretend to be something I'm not. Right. You know, there's those politicians that act like an angel, and then all this dirt comes out about their past. Yeah. It's like, look, we need to get back to forgiveness in this world. We need to remember that people grow from experience, and experiences can be messy.
Experience is the best teacher. I've said it myself, and I've made so many mistakes over the course of, you know, my youth. And then just as you said, your moral compass, you know, it brings you back, and then you find the right path, like you said. I agree.
Yeah, and so working with my father, it's an honor and a privilege, and to be amongst his colleagues, I agree, it's an honor and a privilege. As a personal trainer, you're only focused on people's inner world. You don't really care about their title, their salary, you meet all these people, and to this day, I'm what we were in South Korea recently, and we were able to meet a very what well-funded individual, and we're meeting with him. And anyway, I have an opportunity to speak with him, and the next thing you know, we're connecting like we're friends, and that's always what it's about to me. It's I've met so many people that really it's who are you underneath that,
Yeah.
and I learned to use that as a skill when I was invited to the hunts where I actually met Charlie Kirk. There was this generous gentleman named Foster. He would invite 30 of us, and so here I am, what, maybe 20 years old, maybe 21, somewhere around there. And I get this invitation. To my knowledge, someone had dropped out, and they said, "Oh, well, invite Michael." And I get there, and I'm with the likes of Gary Sinise and Tucker Carlson, people that had worked in the White House, CEOs. I kind of looked around. I'm like, well, what am I doing here? I'm a personal trainer, and I realized that at some point everyone's going to have to stand up and tell a little bit about themselves and why they're there. And I get a little bit nervous. I'm like, well, these guys are impressive with accolades and careers that I just simply can't match. And I think, and I'm kind of going over what I might say if I'm called on. And I think, well, I am one of the younger guys here. Charlie was younger than me. And James O'Keefe with O'Keefe Media Group, we were the youngest of what was known as Foster's Outriders. And an outrider is someone that goes ahead of those he loves to protect them and to lead them. Simple thing. But anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm with these accomplished individuals, some of them young too. And I think, well, what can I bring to this? Well, as we were discussing, you're focused on people's inner world.
Yeah.
I am too.
Right.
And so when I stand up, basically what I say is, look, I can't match any of your careers, your life experiences, but what I can do is extend an invitation for us to relax the formalities and become friends, become brothers.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. And that's usually my least favorite thing to do is get up and do that in a group of people. But no, you did it so beautifully. You said it so beautifully, and it came organically to you. And then instantly, as you mentioned too, like that wasn't just a one and done deal. You continued to go on that trip. You were invited back over the course of like the following 5 years.
That's right. I must have done something or brought something to the table, or he.
Well, you're a great human. That's why they sense that about you.
You're kind, brother. I'm getting there. I'm a work in progress, but I think when you present yourself as this polished, neat, finished product, it's like Velcro. If there's nothing to attach to, where's the emotional connection?
Yeah.
And so when here we are doing a podcast that people will see, I'm not trying to present myself as something I'm not. No, I want you to know that the good Lord has extended mercy and grace to me. I need all the love and prayers I can get. But with that said, every time I fall off the horse, I get back on, and I'm determined to do something bigger and better for other people. Yeah. I want people to see truth. Our mission statement at the American Minute is the most important thing is to bring people to truth. The second most important thing is to make sure that you're able to do the most important thing.
Absolutely. Well, you have a great future ahead of you. I know that you've got a lot of initiatives that you're working on right now with the American Minute, but you have your own path that you want to travel down also. Talk a little bit about what Mike's got going on.
Yes, sir. Well, there is something I remember as a personal trainer. We'll tell a couple little anecdotes here. I remember giving someone their first good workout, and she looks at me and she says, "My anxiety's gone." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, we left it all on the gym floor." She goes, "I didn't know you could do that." And I'm like, "Well, so there's this tool that you and I have found, this vehicle that we operate in. I think you said something to this effect yesterday, but we are, souls having a human experience, and it's when you start to look at your body as this vehicle and tool that you can use to help make yourself more impactful and more helpful to others, then you kind of don't want to show up with all your anxiety. And we're all humans, we experience that stuff, But I found that, oh, well, like stuff that's common knowledge to me, like feeling a little stressed, go for a jog. I believe that wisdom finds you when perspectives shift, meaning if you're just stuck in this train of thought, there's no, we'll use that word porous again. There's no room for something to get in and say, hey, shift your perspective this way. So getting into your body and out of your mind is kind of a smart thing to do. And so I found that, okay, I've got all these little lessons that I use daily, and I thought it was common knowledge. And then you meet more people and they have high powered careers and they haven't had a chance to really delve into that world. And you think, well, let me share some of my lessons.
That's awesome. I can really relate to everything that you said, because I know when I was tuning in as I was starting up my organization, I would go on these long walks, 8-mile walks, and I would turn on audiobooks. And I was sharing with you one of the books yesterday when we were having lunch, A Course in Miracles. It's a spiritual workbook, and it's a great book. But I would get on that 8-mile path at the park, and I would just tune in physically, mentally, spiritually, and everything kind of lined up. And there was also a great, there was like workout stations along this 8-mile loop that I'd walk. So I was able to walk, work out, kind of take it all in, and listen to the book.
See, this is common knowledge for you and probably for a lot of the people listening, but movement like that does release endorphins that help you feel more positive. And when you're feeding your mind and you're moving your body, so I found that when I'm really stuck in a rut, basically I need to, like on Google Maps, how you click zoom out.
Yeah.
I need to find a larger perspective. And when you're listening to audiobooks that speak to that personal growth or a perspective that maybe you haven't really steeped yourself in yet, I feel like that's a potent combination, Mike. Moving your body while feeding your mind, and if it's a content that can kind of feed your spirit a little bit too.
Yeah.
That's how you transcend your situation. And I was listening to a podcast a little while ago, and they were offering a definition of divinity that was detached from any religious definition that I thought was pretty cool. So I believe it was on Joe Rogan, and it was Greg Braden talking, but he offers this definition of divinity that basically says that one of the unique things about humans is that we're able to transcend what we think our perceived limits are. So imagine mile times, 5-minute miles. Oh, you can't run below a 5-minute mile. Then someone does it. Now all of a sudden everyone's doing it. I ran a 4:27 before, I can't do that today. But the definition he offers is divinity is tapping into the part of you that allows you to transcend what you think your perceived limits are. Now he's talking about it in relation to technology. Technology can be a pitfall, or it could be something that feeds this side of you. In your situation, you are allowing technology through the form of an audiobook that could speak to you while you move your body. You are giving yourself a chance to, new data creates a new equation. You're feeding new in, you get new out. And so here you are, moving your body, inviting a healthier perspective through the endorphins, through the work, through the discipline, through the motivation that you're creating in yourself. But you're feeding your mind and your spirit as well. And all of that together creates an environment for you to be able to transcend what you think your perceived limits are. So you found a formula there. I was explaining how audiobooks, they were a great help to me at a portion in my life as well. Now, this is when I was in commercial real estate and I was driving 6 hours here, then 6 hours back. And I thought, well, my favorite songs are great, but I've heard them all enough by now.
Yeah.
I want to feed myself. And so here I am. And what I found is that when you understand what's happening in your body, it's like a magician showing you how the magic trick's done.
Yes.
All of a sudden you're like, oh, I have an element of control over this. And so anyway, when you're in a tough spot, the last thing you want to do is be sedentary, be stationary in the sense that you're not feeding your mind and your spirit. I think what you did, however you arrived at that, I don't think it's a stretch to say that could have saved your life.
Oh, it absolutely did. And you know what else, too? While you make great points with all that, feeding your mind and your spirit, nutritionally, you make better choices when you're feeding the rest.
Come on.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So, and I know that nutrition's a big part of your personal training and what you've instilled into others that you
Yeah.
work with too. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, you and I were mentioning how we both drink coffee, but we are wanting to incorporate more tea.
Yes.
Now, I didn't drink any caffeine until I started working at the Y, and to be completely honest, it wasn't for energy. It was I had a calm routine to my day, and it just added some excitement. So I would, however, there was a period where I got my entire Y to be drinking green tea instead of coffee. Now, if you've ever been to a YMCA, you know that coffee is part of the equation there.
Right.
Flavored coffees, someone's going to let you know the moment that thing is tapped out. And so anyway, here I am building a case for tea. And, well, what was that case? Well, coffee, it is the most common antioxidant consumed in America. So most people get their antioxidants from coffee. Now, an antioxidant is just what it sounds like. If you cut an apple and you leave it on the table, it starts to brown. That's the process of oxidation. The Statue of Liberty, it's green. That's the process of oxidation. So oxidation is when a healthy cell is exposed to oxygen and begins to deteriorate and break down. So an antioxidant is just what it sounds like. It helps repair the cell and even form a protective barrier around it. So coffee is the most common antioxidant consumed in America. Why would someone want to drink tea? Coffee has caffeine. Caffeine is known to block adenosine. We interpret that as energy. We feel that as energy. Really, the analogy I use, and you know me, I'm an imagery person. Picture a parking lot in your brain. Now, these neurotransmitters are going to come park in these spots, but typically there's a life and then a half-life, and then the next neurotransmitter will enter. Adenosine is what makes us feel sleepy. And so caffeine will race to these parking spots, park there for about 8 hours, and block the adenosine. Now, whenever these caffeine molecules leave, that's when the adenosine has a bit of a traffic jam and it all floods in and you have that crash. But tea, on the other hand, tea has about a third of the caffeine as coffee. However, it has something called ECGC, but it's a metabolism stimulant. So when you drink green tea, you notice, okay, I'm getting a little bit warmer on the inside. So it's not just stimulating your mind, it's stimulating your metabolism. But on top of all of that, it has an amino acid that you're starting to see in all kinds of things now, but it's called L-theanine. And L-theanine has a calming factor. Now, it's not something that's going to put you to sleep, but it is something that will help you if your thoughts are pinging back and forth with all the caffeine.
More of an even keel, right?
Help you focus on one task.
And everything you're saying rings true because I drank the green tea, the matcha.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yes, the matcha green tea, and like the authentic, like the tea is actually green.
Yeah.
And yes. And so I noticed when I make that transition, because as we connected through the health and fitness competition, that was part of my bio where I had said I do these 90-day challenges for myself where I would disconnect with coffee but introduce green tea, and then I would do part of the year coffee, part of the year green tea, and the caffeination is two totally different worlds.
Yes.
Because as everything you said about green tea is true, you feel it on the inside, and it's just you're slower to go. But you're not any less caffeinated. You're just more of an even keel.
It's a little more balanced. And so think about it. Coffee at a workplace is very common.
Yeah.
Because it kind of makes you feel this, I better get something done.
Yes.
There's a little burst of, I won't say anxiety, but it's either euphoria or anxiety or somewhere in between the two. It gets you going.
Right.
Tea is much more subtle. While we're talking tea, let's just recap. So coffee, caffeine and antioxidants, great. Higher caffeine content, typical cup of coffee, 90 milligrams of caffeine. Mike's coffee is probably a little bit higher than that.
Max calf.
Max calf, there we go. and so 90 milligrams. Now let's look at a cup of green tea. About 30 milligrams caffeine. It has the metabolism stimulant that we mentioned as well as the L-theanine. And just a little bit more about tea. Green tea is the most popular. However, if you go to certain places, you'll have white tea, green tea, and black tea. Now, those are all the same leaf. That's Camilla sinensis. It's the white is the young leaf, the green is the mature leaf, the black is the aged leaf. The caffeine content goes up as it ages. So a black tea will have more caffeine than a green tea. Green tea will have more than a white tea. And this was fascinating. I read it in Michael Pollan's book. But he talks about why was this caffeine there in this leaf in the first place.
Right.
So I'm sure there are other reasons in addition to this, but he says it acts as a natural pesticide. And you think, well, what do you mean by that? Well, if there's a bug and it's eating the leaf and it becomes caffeinated, it's going to start to move in irregular patterns. And so a bird or a predator is now going to be able to see this thing more easily, pick it up, take it off of the leaf, and the plant continues to grow.
That's interesting.
I'm a nerd, I guess. I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, I love the facts. That's good. I love it. Yeah, but that's so true about green tea. And I also I'll diversify between hot green tea and cold green tea. So I make my own cold brew green tea. Just throw it in a pitcher and 6 or 7 tea bags, and then steep that overnight, and
Yeah.
I'm good to go. Yes.
Yeah, you always got to be careful with heat because it does denature or sometimes increase the acidity of things. So that cold brew is a great way to do it. And then matcha is that whole leaf dried
Yes.
and then just powdered.
I love it. And then so when I get the brand that I get, you get the tea bag and they're all individual, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in the pouch with the tea bag is matcha. There's matcha. So you toss the tea bag in and then you sprinkle the matcha
Oh,
and also, yeah.
nice.
I got a box for you, don't worry.
Oh, word. Let's try it. Yeah.
Yes. You'll love it. But I think that's a great way to kind of just reset my mind, reset my body, is trying to, experiment with different things like that between coffee and green tea. It's a great way to start a challenge for somebody. It was great for me.
You've kind of teed me up to talk about I have a few mantras now, but when I was 19 and I was living in Florence, Italy, I was kind of searching for meaning. And I found that one day I'd wake up and it's this, and the next day I'd wake up and it's that. And then third day I'd wake up and it's somewhere in between the two. What I arrived at after some time there, searching, soul searching, it was an interesting time in my life, was that balance is an important thing. Extremes are not sustainable. Well, why am I bringing this up in relation to our caffeine talk? Well, if you're just drinking coffee and you're not taking any time to kind of let your body reset, like you were saying, well, then you just start taking more caffeine and more caffeine, and there is acceptable upper limits. However, I've found that taking that time to kind of consciously lower any sort of stimulant that you're taking is going to make it more impactful, and ultimately, I believe that's healthier. Finding balance by it's like if you're on a train, you don't want the train to just continue to speed up.
Right.
If there's a turn coming up, maybe it will slow down and then it will speed up after the turn.
Adjust.
Yeah, you don't want to just barrel down that road.
Right. No, those are great points, and I found that helpful for myself on all the levels, emotionally, spiritually, to do those resets and to do those challenges, in every facet. It's also challenging myself to read books. As we talked, sometimes I have when I'm on a green tea kick, I'm more apt to sit down, relax, and I can focus on a book versus when I'm on coffee. So if I'm drinking coffee, it's probably an audio book, and I'm on the 8 Mile Trail, right? But when it's green tea, I can sit, I can relax at the house, and and enjoy a good book. You've mentioned a couple of books while we've been recording so far. What's something that you're reading right now?
Sure. Let's see. So I'm actually writing one right now, and so I'm doing a little bit less reading. Let's see. One that I reference often, though, that is kind of tied into my worldview, and it is hard to recommend because it's a bit of a clinical read. It's Power vs. Force, The Hidden Determinants of Human Behavior by Dr. David R. Hawkins, and it's fascinating. And I think we might have touched on this before, but to sum it up for our audience, not going to discourage you from reading it, but it is like it's clinical data, so it's going to get a little. Maybe listen to it before you want to go to bed or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, an analogy. I like imagery. Toss a beach ball on the ocean. It's going to float. Take that beach ball, shove it underwater. The moment you move even one hand, it returns to the surface. Well, what am I saying there? Power is something's inherent ability to be present. It's in its natural designated place. It's where it belongs. Force is kind of the opposite. And force is, if you're driving a car up a hill and you take your foot off the gas pedal, that car starts to roll back down. What we're seeing in the world today, I think this is a useful tool to recognize when something is operating in a position of power where it belongs. It's sustainable. If you do nothing to it, it's going to remain. Versus force. There's a lot of forceful movements out there that, you can talk about it, from a social aspect or whatnot, but I think it's helpful to be able to distinguish power versus force. And so, anyway, if you're continuing to consume more and more caffeine, you're forcing it at a certain point. You're not letting your body have its own natural rhythms, its own hormones that kind of those energize you too. And when you're just dousing yourself with caffeine, it's kind of like, okay.
I could get to a point where I'd fall asleep. Where I could literally fall asleep and I'm very caffeinated.
Right after drinking it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, what's going on here? Time for a reset.
Well, and so that's called caffeine adapted.
Yes.
And now we've talked about the nervous system a bit. So your nervous system, break it into two parts: sympathetic, parasympathetic, excited, calming. Yes. And now, if you can drink coffee, and now this is pretty normal, and it doesn't mean you're completely due for a reset, but it means to just note that you're caffeine adapted. Let's say we drink a coffee, and then instead of feeling energized, there's a 30-minute window where you're like, I just want to relax. Yeah. Well, basically, when something foreign enters your body, you have a sympathetic response. Your body gets excited. What is this? I don't recognize this. When it's something that you not only recognize, but you're so used to that you crave, just receiving it, there's kind of this reward system that's activated. So you'll feel calm. Now, it will still park in those neurotransmitter parking spots that we had mentioned, and then you're going to receive the energy. It's going to block the sleepy molecule. But if you're drinking a large amount of caffeine and you're able to rest, that means two things. Either you haven't been sleeping at all and you're running on fumes and caffeine, hopes and dreams, or you're caffeine adapted. You're going to have this little window where it's relaxing, and then you'll feel the stimulated effects.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm currently in that transition period right now with the green tea and the coffee. Yeah. So I always make that transition. As you know, one of my challenges for myself is all my challenges actually start in October, heading towards my birthday in December. That way I'm locked and loaded and ready to roll into the new year. So I don't really start any kind of formal New Year's resolutions, but I always have yearly goals for myself that center around, turning a year older. So with my birthday being in December, my gift to myself is to start 90 days ahead of time. So I'm ready to roll on my birthday into the new year.
That's something I love about you, Mike, is in everything you do, you're kind of looking at the big picture. So many people today get so caught up in the minutia of their day that they can't put it in perspective. It's kind of a stoic practice to evaluate your day and see what you did right, what you did wrong, what you could do better. And it's like you do that on a macro scale, and it's like you're conscious of what and who you are. And let me know next time. Maybe I can join you on some of these challenges, and we'll become better together.
Yeah, anytime. And I know that you'll knock the challenge out of the park, I'm sure. You're so committed to your wellness, your fitness, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, all those things. What are some of the things that you're eating nutritionally to keep fit and keep in alignment?
Yeah. So I consider nutrition tools in the toolbox. I taught a course called Understanding Nutrition, and I would travel. This was mostly in the downtown YMCA, and but I have taught these courses other places, and so a couple talking points. the same diet that can get you jacked and ripped in 4 to 8 weeks can have some serious health detriments at 4 to 8 years.
Yeah.
It's not just find a lane and stay in it. And this is going to dip into something, again, bigger picture. We mentioned spiritual stuff here, and I feel like our conversation is going to ultimately kind of maybe crescendo somewhere in that realm. But picture a pyramid. Whatever's at the top is most important. That means that everything else below it is kind of, you have a hierarchy of needs, but you also have a hierarchy of what matters to you. Every person has it. There's no way of saying that everything means the same to me, that everything is measured the same. It's all the same caliber. So I would find in my gyms, now I've done all of these, so I can speak to each of them. You've got your carnivores, you've got your vegetarians, you've got your vegans. I went through a period where it was all vegetables. I was with someone that was really helping make that an easy choice in my life. They were also helping prepare a lot of the food. It was great. There were a lot of benefits. You have a lot of those antioxidants we were talking about, and they come at a very low calorie cost. Now, basically, when I teach nutrition, it's about nutrition density. And so you want to look at the calories and say, how many nutrients am I getting per calorie? So, for instance, if you eat a bunch of donuts, which I do love a good donut.
That's right. Amen.
You can hit your calorie goal for the day like that. However, you're going to keep receiving hunger signals because your body says, okay, we got the calories. What about the selenium, the zinc, the B6, the B12, the vitamin C? Like, we're not getting the micronutrients. We're only getting the macro. So I guess nutrient density is important. Now, here's the thing. In my gyms, I would literally walk into conversations, debates that were starting to turn a little bit, they weren't necessarily friendly discussions at this
Right. They were
point.
going in the wrong direction.
And it would be a vegan versus a carnivore. Now, I would come in. I was the director, so I kind of would be able to, direct what happened at this location. And I'd say, all right, what are we talking about here? Well, I'm a vegan and I have the superior diet. Well, I'm a carnivore and I have the superior diet. And I would just very practically walk them through that. I would say, okay, vegan, tell me, when did you start seeing results? Well, I shifted to vegan. Then I started cutting out sugary foods. Then I started cutting out anything like high glycemic at all. Then I started cutting out processed foods. All right, put a pin in that 1 second. Carnivore, when did you start seeing your results? Well, I was eating all kinds of things. Then I started cutting out carbs. Then mostly just started eating meat. Then it was only fresh meat, not very processed. And I started cutting out the junk food. Okay, let's pause. Basically, when you can get yourself to a nutritionally dense diet, doesn't really matter where the nutrients are coming from, and there are benefits to both that we won't necessarily get into, but the benefits are typically seen when you get back to nature, when you get back to something your body recognizes. We are natural beings. Your body understands an apple. It says, oh, well, this makes sense to me. Like, I understand the parts and I can use them effectively. When they do liposuction, if you look at the cells, the adipose tissue, the fat cells, what you'll commonly find, chemicals, dyes, and preservatives. Why is that? Well, your body says, I could turn this into energy. However, the return on investment is not very good. I've got this natural food over here. That's easy to convert into energy. It's a good return on investment. These other things, well, I'm a human body. I don't want to waste energy. It's only been the past, 100, maybe 200 years that we've, prior to that, food scarcity was a thing. You wouldn't necessarily know when your next big meal was. There wasn't a corner store that had enough calories to feed the whole city and
Right.
every block. So I guess what I'm saying is the human body doesn't want to waste calories. It doesn't just let them go. It stores them. And so I guess we're getting into the nutrition lesson here is when blood sugar spikes, insulin is released, and your body will store the extra blood sugar. So, I would teach people, if you're going to consume sugar, have it moderately, have it after you've been active. Know that it is going to replenish your glycogen store. You bench press, right?
Yeah.
When do you stop? When you run out of energy. What does that mean? Well, here's your muscle cell, and here's the ATP, the adenosine triphosphate, and as you're benching, you're using up that ATP. Now, when you rest, you have these backup reserves called glycogen. It's where your muscles hold on to extra carbohydrates, and then they replenish the ATP. You take your 2-minute rest, you get back in there, you press it again. And so if you've been depleting your glycogen, eating sugar is going to replenish that. Now, if you have a full glycogen store and you're eating sugar, your body's going to revert into that mode where it says, I don't want to waste energy. Let me just store this as fat tissue. We'll use it later. Yeah. That's why if you eat something that's got fiber in it, it's going to slow the glycemic impact versus that donut that I talked about.
Right.
Instant blood sugar.
I keep a healthy balance of both. So like I love vegan food, right? But I'm also a carnivore. So I'm very in the middle there, very diplomatic, I guess, if you will, with that. And so I tap into both. And then also I incorporated juicing into my nutrition realm a long time ago, years ago, probably back in 2012. Or maybe even before. And I would get a lot of negative feedback from people about juicing because they thought like that was the only thing I did. And I was like, no, I eat meat, I eat rice, I eat vegetables, I eat fish, I incorporate other things in. I'm not just a solo juicer. I don't recommend that for anybody. That you need you need fiber, you need
They're tools in the toolbox.
Yeah, you need nutrients. But juicing was a huge key in getting ripped for myself. Like my 6-pack just popped like that when I started incorporating green juice. I would juice simple things like, well, first I educated myself on the produce section at the grocery store. I just went, like when I flipped the script and steered clear of drinking and pouring back into myself. It was like when most people were just leaving the bar. I was going to the grocery store, the 24-hour grocery store, to learn the produce section, right? And so getting a good night's sleep and then learning the international produce section, and then starting with simple things like green foods like cucumbers, because that's like 90% water, celery,
silica and water.
Yes. And getting all the nutrients from broccoli and anything green I could get my hands on. So I was learning about all that, and then I would slowly incorporate, a regular carnivore diet on top of vegan food.
Well, I mean, absolutely. You're when you're juicing, you're extracting fiber and you're putting out nutrients. So the whole thing that I really, if I had to hang my nutrition hat on one rack, it's nutrition density. Make each calorie count. And so just to close a few tabs that I've opened here. So, the vegan and the carnivore, both diets are very effective. Yeah. That's what I'm getting at, is that when you cut out the high glycemic, sugary stuff and the junk food, the processed stuff, with
processed
all the garbage,
food, yes.
Yeah.
Amen.
Your body responds. And then the mention of the pyramid, I talk about the pitfalls, of vanity and otherwise that you can find in this fitness realm. It's so healthy to take care of yourself, but when you make it your religion or your God, I think you're starting to miss the bigger picture.
Right.
So there's people, and I'm not knocking anyone that's on this mission, because this is your journey. You got to learn what works best for you.
You get there when you get there.
Come on.
Yes.
And there are benefits. Like some people have a high propensity for inflammation, and a certain diet is going to meet them where they're at and help them. But when it becomes I haven't had this in 2 years, and you're so proud of it, and it's like be careful there, because that can become your religion. And I think, we're all here. Humans are social creatures. I believe things that help you become the best version of yourself so you can help other people become the best version of themselves. That's a great place to be.
Tools in your toolbox.
Come on.
Amen, brother. And I think too, like, I notice the difference. Don't you feel the difference? Because I reward myself or allow myself to stray off the clean path a time or two. You love donuts. I love donuts. Pizza. Like, I love me some good pizza and burgers. Like, I definitely love a good cheeseburger.
It's a health food in my book.
Those are things that exactly. Those are things that I definitely allow into my life, and I'm not as strict as people might think that I am. I do enjoy good food, and also too, I notice the difference. Like if I'm weaving processed foods in the mix, because sometimes we falter,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well, you can't
you
eat
travel
perfectly
all
all
the
the
time.
time.
Like you've been
Yeah.
on a world tour right now, and like kind of when you're going to the hotels and you got to eat on the go, you don't always have your gear, right? And so you can't always make the healthiest choices, or they're just not available. And so I notice too, like when I'm making those choices, though, my brain function, my cognitive function, and everything about me kind of slows down.
Hmm.
It doesn't kind of slow down; it slows down. And then, so you notice the difference between like drinking like some green tea and some clean green juice versus like grabbing a bag of Doritos or having to hit the drive-through somewhere, to grab a meal.
Well, and your palate is very sensitive to that stuff. So your palate picks up basically for, it's salty, sweet, and umami and bitter. And now here we just mentioned cheeseburgers. Now I joke that on the road cheeseburgers are a health food, but that's because we're talking about convenience. I
Right.
can't. Sometimes by the time we wrap the day, the only thing open is an In-N-Out, and I will eat that and
You're
not
in
feel
and out.
guilty.
Yeah.
Come on. But with your palate, notice that, okay, so that cheeseburger that I like so much, that at that In-N-Out or that, Five Guys or Culver's or wherever, I'm dropping a few of my
I love all
favorites
those
here.
places.
Yeah, yeah, they all do good. But anyway, you're getting salty, you're getting buttery, all these flavors are hitting your palate at the same time, and your palate, it's like anything else, it becomes accustomed to this, and when you take those times to reset, and then you visit those foods again, it's like, oh, that flavor's so
Oh, you can
bold.
hear the
It's
Hallelujah
not the status
chorus.
quo. Yeah, yeah.
Literally, it's like, what? This is so good.
So it seems like we keep coming back to how balance can be a beneficial thing in your life.
Yes, and you learn to appreciate so much more. You learn to appreciate those rewards for yourself, those pleasures.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the burger on a full belly versus the I've worked hard all day and I can't wait. It's like those taste completely different.
absolutely.
And you mentioned donuts, so I'm gonna say maybe I should save it for the confessional. But I get this is why I struggle with donuts is because I'll eat them and I'll feel like maybe I shouldn't have done all that. But then the next day at the gym, I get more compliments than
Yes.
say, hey, you look great today, and I'm like, should I tell them that I was bashing donuts or
Well,
maybe?
we have this in common. As I was mentioning to you, my thing is pizza, and so if I eat a pizza the night before and then I like take a progress shot in the morning, I'm like, why does that progress shot always look better after a nice pizza the night before?
And that's our
Yes.
glycogen stores. We've
Yes.
filled up that, so your body is now ready for action because there are carb dependent people, and
Yeah.
I've noticed that you and I are. A lot of the world gets upset at carb dependent people because we need them or else we deflate. And that brings me back to one more thing I was talking about with the glycogen and how that turns into your ATP, your immediate energy stores. A lot of people use creatine, and I just wanted to mention this quickly. Creatine, here's your muscle cell, here's the ATP. Creatine will allow your muscle cell to hold more water and swell, which then allows more of that immediate energy source, the ATP, to fit in there.
Yeah.
So you're able to push a little bit harder. But it, I, there's no, the class I taught was called Understanding Nutrition. It was not eat this and get jacked, because there is some subjectivity to it. Not everyone is the same. Everyone's
Everyone's
lifestyle is
built different.
Yeah.
Exactly. And everybody grows differently. Everyone's muscle growth is different. Absolutely. Yes. I agree. Man, you're a wealth of knowledge on nutrition. You could write a book.
I'm working on it.
I know. So let's lead into that. You're tapping into becoming an author at this point. So
Thank you. I've co-authored 2 books with my father. Now, these are history books, and they're fascinating. I'll mention the titles at the end here. I like to retain a little bit of mystery, but my father does such great research that writing alongside him is a genuine pleasure and a blessing. So we were talking about nutrition just now, and there's 2 paradigms, reductionist and holistic. Reductionist means we're going to flip that thing over and read what it's made up of. We're going to understand it by breaking it into its smaller parts. Holistic is kind of zooming out and looking at the bigger picture. Now, my father writes history books. You can learn so much by delving into one period of history, learning the little minutia, the little detail. However, if you can do that in conjunction with zooming out to we have the nobody knows how much history there is, but what we have written down and recorded is about 6,000 years. Starts with Sumerian cuneiform about 6,000 years ago. And when you can add that into the picture, you get something that I don't know that people have ever used this term, but holistic history. You start to see the patterns that people go through, and human nature is the constant. History is like mathematics in a sense. So you've got your graph, your x and your y axis. You plot a point, it's some information. You plot a few points and you draw a line through it and you say, oh, this is leading somewhere. So my father has this unique ability to not pass up on the details, the reductionist paradigm, but he has the holistic side of history. He looks at the big, big picture. And so that's why his books are so impactful.
Yeah.
So writing with him is a challenge because he's on his 30th plus, so he knows how to write so
That's
quickly.
amazing. Congratulations, Bill Federer.
You're doing great, Pop. I'm very proud of you. And so for me, I've been working on one that, years ago, Mike, I thought I was going to be just a personal trainer, and I was very happy with that. I felt like it's kind of
a wonderful career path.
Absolutely, and it's something that it's not in today's world. It's not left or right. It's not political. It's not inflammatory to anyone.
Service to others.
Yeah, and I thought, well, this is a great place to be. And I'm not upsetting anyone. It's like firefighters. Everybody loves a firefighter. They're modern day heroes. It's nobody wants to see the fire consume something that is a shelter for someone. It's people can get on the same page and say, I like firefighters. I think personal trainers are kind of in that category. However, we talk about body, mind, spirit, and other people. I feel like the older I get, the body is still just as important. But now the mind is important, and now the spirit is becoming so important. And what I've found is that the three of those together create my heart posture, how I feel towards other people. Do I want to be like, I don't like them, I just want to be by myself, just kind of be a recluse, and that is, as an introvert, you get me out of my shell, brother, but that's how I recharge. I like to be by myself, slow things down, let my thoughts unwind. But if I stay there for too long, I feel like maybe I'm not providing any value to my peers. And as much as I would love personal training, the older I get, I have to look at the big picture. Just like my father zooming out on history, I'm zooming out on, well, what good does really, like, what does taking care of your body really do? And so I've come to this conclusion that while taking care of the body is important, it's arguably the least important in the scale of body, mind, spirit, other people. How you approach and address and impact other people is arguably the most important. So what I like to teach is, by taking care of your body, you start this cascade of benefits that then flows into every area of your life. Truly. Your mentality, that spills into your spirit, and ultimately you say, you know what? I feel like I've filled my cup up. I'm going to go ahead and start pouring into other people.
I think we're both a true testament of that, as I've gotten to know you over the course of 3 years, and then just while you've been here and we've reconnected and just our conversation flow. We are both a true testament to that, I think.
Well, and Mike, I say this, I feel like a black sheep everywhere I go. I never feel like I fit in, like, even in the political stuff. To me, I've been in this for so long. It's like, guys, the solution is simple. Why can't, we should be able to get along by now. The fact that I have to get involved is kind of like this, okay, I would have loved to just be a personal trainer, and I was telling you how I became an EMT on the pathway to becoming a firefighter, and life happens, and me
a first responder, and we have that in common.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and then that's what I was getting at, is that, Mike, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but you've got me rolling now, and you're such an encouragement to me, brother. I feel like I'm the only person that, and I know that there are others out there, I just don't come across them, but I feel like, man, I've got a foot in this world and a foot in that world, and I'm not trying to leave one for the other. I'm trying to bring them together. And then I meet you, and I hear about your experiences, and you've kind of, to be quite frank, you've been through some of the things that I'm experiencing now and will experience soon, and you're like, it's so refreshing. It's going back to that big bro, little bro. I mean, big bro over here.
Right back at you. I mean, it goes both ways, and just walking similar paths. And I think we can relate to each other so much. The black sheep thing, foot in two worlds. I mean, I get it. I see you. I hear you, brother. And I mean, you're doing great things. And I think that as long as you stay true to yourself, you can't go wrong. Yeah. You know, you have a great circle around you. You have a great inner circle. You can't beat your inner circle. You know, I think that's amazing.
Well, it's an honor and a privilege to be a part of yours now. And yeah, I've had a very exciting life. You know, I look back on it and I tell these stories so nonchalantly, and I realize that this is not everyone's experience, but one chapter of my life that really afforded me some incredible experiences, but then really helped me get back to looking at the bigger picture was my time in Arizona. Now, I mentioned I had run track. I had torn my hamstring my senior year of high school. Prior to this, athletics was kind of my path. I was a personal trainer. I had some potential as an athlete. Track runners don't make the most money, but I thought it's something I love. And when I tore my hamstring, I realized, look, you succeed at things that you can go 110% at. And we mentioned how that particular injury can be re-aggravated very easily. I could not go 110%. I study abroad for some time. I think it's going to heal. It doesn't quite heal. So I kind of put athletics on the shelf. And it was a hard pill to swallow. At the time, I was running track at Benedictine in Atchison, Kansas, the smallest town. The school at the time was very small. Great school. But my high school in St. Louis, I think, was larger. So I was used to just a bigger world. And I enjoyed it, but I started to know exactly what to expect. And I thought, okay, if I'm not running track, I'm going to go to the biggest school that will accept me. I end up at Arizona State, another phenomenal school.
Yeah.
Great education. I studied nutrition and dietetics there, but it was out-of-state tuition. I needed a good job. My buddy Tyler, Ty Money, he gets us a job at this bar downtown in downtown Phoenix, and it has a comedy club on one side that holds about 900 people, and a bar with live music and 3 actual bars. I mean, they have I think like 40 plus taps. If you count their bottled beers, it's over 100. And you know, for a college person, this is kind of a cool scene to be at. Now, I'm kind of not really drinking at this point. I just kind of over it. Yeah. But it was fun to be out there. Anyway, one night we get real busy. My bar manager looks at me and he goes, "We need someone to pick up Steve-O." And I'm like looking at him, like kind of like, don't pick me. And he's like, "Mike." And I'm like, all right. I go down. I've never driven this nice of a car. It's our owner's car. So I'm like, I better be careful. I go to the airport. I pick up Steve-O.
And this is Steve-O from Jackass.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'll mention a couple others, but Steve-O was the first. Steve-O, thank you for being so kind, man. You, this was funny. So we pick him up, and or I pick him up rather. It's just him and I'm driving him back, and there's this kind of, I'm being very professional. I didn't want to take pictures with people until the end of the weekend. I wanted them to feel like I was actually there to keep them safe, and I was. And I was able to hire a team around me, which they did a great job. But they would say, "Mike, let me take a picture." I was like, "Guys, let's wait till the end of the night at least, then we'll be professional about it." So I'm here doing my best to be professional, driving this nice car that's just, I at the time I had like an '01 Impala that had a perpetually flat tire. I'm working my way up.
Yeah.
But anyway, Steve-O mentions to me, he goes, "Hey, your side mirrors aren't open." I'm like, "Well, I'm going to be completely honest with you, Steve. I have no idea how to open those. I tried before you got here, and we're just going to drive like this right now." And he starts cracking up. This is nothing to him.
Right.
You know what he's capable of.
Yes.
Anyway, he's like, "Are you picking me up tomorrow?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, man, we'll have some fun." Anyway, he becomes, as much of a friend as you can in one weekend.
Right.
But that goes well enough to where I become the guy that interfaces with the talent. So then we have David Spade come in. Then we have Charlie Murphy come in. Charlie brought his own security, and when the elevator door opened, and I'm like 6'4", Mike. I'm a decently tall guy. I'm looking up at his security guards. I go, "You know what, Charlie? I'll just be your chauffeur today. You've got your own security. I'm not even gonna throw my hat in that ring." Anyway, I'm meeting all these individuals, and I meet Joe Rogan, and Joe was the coolest, nicest guy. Like he was just just a
Humble dude, right?
friendly guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, there's you're learning to navigate the bar and be professional and talk to these celebrities. I was telling you about Adam Devine. He was a lot of fun because he finishes his set and he's hungry. And I'm like, well, I think the kitchen's already closed. It's pretty late. He goes, well, don't you guys own the kitchen?
Right.
I'm like, well, yeah, I guess you're right. So we go to our GM, Shannon. Shannon was great, incredible, and she goes, well, yeah, Pierce is still here. Let's go ahead and make you guys some pizza. So I'm back there with Adam Devine from Workaholics, and we're making our own pizzas, and it was just such a fun time. And you get to this place where you think, okay, I'm doing well. I'm learning. I'm in school. I'm making decent money. I'm enjoying my job. And my brother ended up, having cancer, and at the same time, I realized I'm still paying out-of-state tuition. I guess I hadn't done something correctly, and this perfect storm happens to where I end up back in St. Louis, and I think, well, I'll just go back to Arizona later. No, I'm realizing in life, you got to break that rear view mirror off.
Yeah.
You need to look forward. You can't be trying to go backwards. But I had so many fun experiences there. But it was kind of the end of me seeking fun. I thought, well, okay, fun is good, but purpose is better.
Yeah. I'm with you.
The person who has a why can withstand any how. It's what's your ikigai, your reason for getting out of bed in the morning.
Ikigai, yes.
Yeah. And so I start to evaluate that. And I'm in St. Louis, again, I'm in the health and wellness field, and the pandemic hits, and my gym doors are closed. And about the same time, my mother had hurt her hand. And so we ship books. My father's an author. Mom, don't lift a finger. Don't pick up a box. Don't even pick up a book. I'll be there in a day and a half. I think this is going to be some acute chapter in my life where I kind of help my parents, then go back to my comfortable little life, being the hero to everyone, the firefighter, the personal trainer. But we start working together. And I drive back and forth a few times, and I realize, you know what? The stuff that they're working on is really important. Like, this can change the outcome of the country. The United States is the paragon of freedom in the world. There's very few, when you look at that 6,000 years of history, very rarely do you see people governing themselves. The lay of the land is kings, pharaohs, sultans, kaisers, caliphs. Power likes to concentrate at the top. We've got this experiment going on where we're 250 years this year into governing ourselves. And you kind of think, when you read all this history, people that are not able to govern themselves are subjected to a lot of atrocious things. And that word subject, kings have subjects. Subjects are subjected to the often arbitrary will of that monarch, of that tyrant. Citizen, what you and I are, it's a Latin word that implies co-sovereign, co-ruler, co-king. Now, I do think it's, what I've been very calculated about, just kind of trying to cast a wide net, let everyone have something to pull from this podcast. But here in the United States, we are citizens. If there's something going wrong, we have to look at ourselves first.
Agreed.
We can't start pointing the finger at this person, that person. We are in control. We're in the driver's seat. So working with the American Minute, we've talked about all the fun stuff, all the nutrition, and how each time you grow in life, you kind of want to look at a bigger picture. I'm looking at a big picture, Mike. We have a lot of work to do in our country and in our world. I want to circle back to South Korea for just one moment. I want to mention this about Charlie. We were there in South Korea, and there was an event called Build Up Korea. Now, if you've ever been to an America Fest or a Turning Point event, these are phenomenal events. They're well attended. People are excited and friendly. The introductions are loud. There's fireworks. So anyway, they're very noticeable events. They stand out. We go to South Korea, and I'm with a handful of people. Charlie is one of them. we make it to this kind of green room, and he invites us into fellowship before he goes up to speak. And Mikey McCoy kind of whispers to my father, "Don't let him fall asleep. He's been up for a very long time." So we start, just engaging him in conversation, and we're chatting. And at one point, he sees the introduction, and he takes out his camera and he starts to record. And he goes, "This is so cool." And it warms my heart because amidst what I consider a terrible tragedy, here he is getting to see a glimpse of his legacy. He realized that he was not just someone who made an impact here in the United States, the paragon of freedom in the world. He had created a blueprint for how to connect faith to stewardship of your nation. We were talking about that pyramid and how whatever's most important to you is going to make it up there. I want to go on record and say that I do believe God belongs there. I think that, we can say it a lot of ways, but I snowboard, and I've used the analogy of, controlling your mental health is like if you can come to a stop and find that place of peace, that little sanctuary, then you can trust your decisions. Don't make decisions angry. Be conscious of what is preceding the action. Don't make decisions anxious. Come to a stop. It doesn't matter if you're on a bunny hill or a double black diamond, snowboarding analogies. If you can stop, you're in control. So you want to make decisions from a calm, confident place of peace. And so when I'm looking at it like that, I want to be of service to people. I believe that, it's that saying of if your friend's wearing an outfit and they don't look as good as they can look, if you don't tell them, you're sparing yourself. You're not helping them out at all. A good friend might say, "Hey, I've seen you look a little better." And
Are you trying to tell me something on the podcast here, Mike?
You always look great.
I'm just kidding.
But I guess what I'm saying is Leviticus 19, love your neighbor as yourself. It's a verse that everybody knows. Do you know the verse that comes right before it? It says, "Correct your neighbor if they are doing wrong so you do not incur their guilt." I believe you love people by correcting them. If, no one has it all figured out, but if you've gone down a path that has given you experiences that you can lend to other people, I think it's important to share those. And while I'm so inclined to just kind of, stay to myself here, I think it's important to realize that each one of us is born into a story. And while I would have loved to just stay a personal trainer, there is much more to do. You need to keep your faith. Oh, and the last thing about the snowboarding was that, I didn't want to come off too preachy here. I want people to connect with us on so many levels because we're eclectic individuals. But here's the thing. Have you ever been scared?
Absolutely.
And, there's a thing in snowboarding when you're first learning to snowboard. You've never set foot in one before. And they'll say, "What's your lead foot?" I don't know. I've never been a snowboarder. Say, "Okay." They'll ask you to turn that way. So you have your back to the person, and then they give you a shove. And whatever foot comes out first is typically your lead foot. And so why do I say that? Well, I would be remiss if I didn't say that when I'm scared and that litmus test of what is real to me, Jesus is who I call on. It's like being shoved in a snowboard, that foot that comes out. If I'm put in that situation where I'm pressed, that's who I lean on. That's who I rely on. I want everyone to find their path to truth, but I do believe that you need to have something more substantive than your diet as the top of your pyramid. You need to look at the bigger picture. You need to find something that allows you to pour into others. For me, that's it. It's I'm still learning. I'm still walking in my faith, but being around these individuals like Charlie, who was so bold about his faith, and I was in South Korea with Pastor Rob McCoy. He is incredible. He's been a huge support to my family for so long. He's been an encouragement to me, but spending 10 days with him there, it was like, you know what? He was a a record-holding swimmer. I can't tell you where, I can't recall where, but he still has records that have not been broken.
Wow.
And he was a lifeguard. And why do I mention that? Well, being around people like that, it feels like for the first time in a long time, you're swimming with people who are looking out for you. They're the lifeguards for you. And so I don't expect everyone to understand what I know, but when you know these people and you know their heart, they are looking out for the best in you. They want the best, not just for you, but for your country. Now, in South Korea, a lot's happening. Um, they are arresting pastors, which is something that I do not agree with. Pastor Son at Seguro Church, where we spoke prior to the Build Up Korea event, is in prison right now. He was arrested 2 days after we left. He's down 35 pounds. He's not.
Wow.
So there's a lot going on in the world.
Yeah.
And, I guess what I'm saying is at the American Minute, almost every book that my father writes is going to have a call to action, a call to stewardship of your family, of your community, and of your nation. I think what I want to do next is write and teach to those people who are willing but not quite ready for that call to action. I want to use the stuff that we had talked about this whole time and equip people with the skills and knowledge that sometimes you and I might take for granted about how to operate this body, this vehicle, and invite this cascade of benefits into their life, not so they can be vain and think that they're better than other people, but so they can be better equipped to pour into other people.
I love that. It's amazing. I can relate to your analogy on the snowboarding with skydiving, actually, because I did the same thing. And it's kind of have you ever gone skydiving?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to go skydiving together, actually. We should
go.
do this. But it's kind of the same deal, right? Because I had never done it before. And then but I had done it, when you first go, you go tandem till you get your lessons.
Yeah, you have to the first 3 times, I think.
Yes, yep. And so, but they just scoot you down the seahorse or the sawhorse or whatever in the plane. And then you get up to the thing and you just tip out of the plane, right? Like you have no idea what that's going to be
Head
like.
back, roll forward.
Yes, yeah, and it's kind of like give it to God.
Yeah,
and that was part of my spiritual path too, because I was making peace with, I was trying to find peace with my brother's death, and my brother passed away on a unique day. It was Friday the 13th, and so every now and again we get a Friday the 13th that comes around, right? And so like that's when I turned that day into facing my fears and kind of giving it to God. And I had never gone skydiving before. I was terrified, and so I think I was very emotional that whole week leading up to that experience, because number one, the Friday the 13th was coming up, and it makes me think of my brother, and then I never know what those emotions are going to be like. Is it going to be a celebration of his life, or is it going to be grief that week? You know what I mean? Or how that's going to play out. But I just gave it up, and I was like, okay, all right, the week's coming up, and I had committed to the skydiving gig, and then I did it. I got there. I mean, I was more emotional and afraid the week leading up to the thing than I was when I got up in the plane, because it just kind of all subsided.
Yeah.
And then like I really trusted the guy, the instructor, that I was doing the tandem jump with, and he just had a very calming presence about him. And I had looked at some of the other instructors that were getting paired up with people, and they seemed a little wild, a little crazy. I was like, that might give me some anxiety. So I'm super pumped that I got the guy that I got, because he was able to just kind of reel it back for me. And then we just, got up to the door. And it's very surreal, when you get up there, and it's very surreal to watch somebody else just before you go, like they tip out of the plane and just fall out. I've never seen someone just fall out of a plane before.
So I'm so glad you said what you just said, because we've opened so many tabs in this conversation that I wanted to close a few of them.
Yeah.
And we had mentioned how doing something new, inviting a new perspective, allows room for new wisdom to enter. When you're falling out of a plane with nothing but some cloth to catch you and keep you from landing on the ground, you're gonna have a new perspective when you touch ground. And you had mentioned so my skydiving experience, my first time, my best friend's father, this is Marty. I've mentioned some names, and so I gotta mention my boy Marty. Love you, Marty. He is my brother. He lived 5 houses down. I would stay at his house so often. And his father, I had a relationship with both of his parents. I officiated his wedding recently. I'm the wedding officiant for some of my friends. Anyway, Mr. B is someone I'd known since I was, in third grade. And at his 56th birthday, he goes, "I'm going skydiving." Tells us like the day of, or maybe the day before, but Marty and I, we kind of had this competitive nature with Mr. B, and respectfully, but we're like, we're not letting him skydive before us. We're like, all right, we're going too.
Yeah.
So less than 24 hours, we're in a plane, and it's like it's happening so fast. We didn't have that time for anxiousness, and just like you said, watching someone else. So here I watch my best friend, one of the most beloved people to me in this entire world, scoots to the edge, dangles his feet out, and then just plops out of this plane. And I think that was even more frightening than doing it myself.
It was. I can relate. Yes, totally.
But to that spiritual part, the hardest part is getting started.
Yeah.
Once you're in the air, I don't know how you felt, but it was elation for me.
It was me
I
too.
loved it. I was enjoying it. The tandem instructor sensed that I was enjoying it, and he goes, after he pulls the cord, he goes, "Here, take these, steer us down."
Dude,
And
my
I'm
guy
like,
did the
"Let's
same
go."
thing.
Yeah.
Yes. He
Yeah.
was like, I was like, Jesus, take the wheel, because now I'm steering. So, no, that was an experience. And then I really took to it, and I kept going after.
Yeah.
Like, it became a thing for me. I was like, now I want to fly the plane.
Really?
I got on a kick. But it was kind of like, it was after, this was like just after COVID and the restrictions had lifted and you could get out and do things again. So everything was still slow. So I was trying to take pilot's lessons. I was like, I want to get my pilot's license now, because I had a few jumps under my belt. But it was like trying to get anybody that was in their respective field to work at that time was like not happening. So I had to park some things. So maybe down the road, but I'm with you. I agree with everything that you've said. It's
Well, a theme that we were talking about yesterday was competing with ourselves. And I scuba dive, I skydive, I snowboard, I do all these things that can challenge me, but the most challenging thing is being your genuine self in front of the world. And Mike, you do that to such an incredible degree. You've given me an opportunity to, part of the reason that we talked about so much of the things that weren't just American Minute were I want people to see a little bit of what's underneath the iceberg, and you've afforded me an opportunity to do that. I think what you're doing here at Inner Circle, I think you're one of the rare voices that is unifying in today's world. Everybody wants the hot take. Everybody wants to say something bold that ends up either on one side or the other. But you've found a way to get to know people and kind of put that other stuff aside and say, let me get to know the person behind the person. And so I'm just really impressed with what you're doing here. If you ever get that pilot's license, let's go skydiving, and anyway, you're walking in your purpose, and that's more challenging than anything else. It's
Well, I appreciate everything that you said. Thank you. That really hits me in the heart, and right back at you. You're walking your purpose, and it's been such a pleasure getting to know you over the course of the last 3 years. And, you've really inspired me on so many levels also. I mean, you're doing amazing things with American Minute. You've co-authored these books with your father, and you're stepping into your own light at this point, getting in front of the lens at this stage in your life. I think it's a bold leap and a big move for you, and I'm so proud of all your accomplishments, and it's just such an honor to have you as a friend and as a brother.
Amen. I couldn't have said it better. The American Minute is what I do now, and you've given me a chance to kind of explain how I arrived at this intersection. And I do it because I think it's a higher calling than what I have been doing previously. And it's what the book that my father and I recently put out is called Courageous Christianity. But to sum it up, it shows what one individual can do to make an impact on the world. It kind of details the Second Great Awakening, which, starts with the sermons of a man called Charles Finney. He was a lawyer turned preacher, but he would preach like a lawyer. He would build a case and then ask you to make a decision. I want to mention another title if I can.
Throw it out there.
So one of my father's best-selling books, I'll mention two. They pair together well. One kind of speaks to the times right now, and I had mentioned it earlier, but Who is the King in America? It's the 6,000-year overview of what a phenomenon in the truest sense of the word it is for us to have this opportunity to govern ourselves, which that we need to be conscious of what we're doing here in the United States. This isn't somewhere where you can point to a monarch and say it's all their fault. We are the co-sovereign here. We are the co-creator, the co-kings in America. So who is the king in America? And then the book that was dedicated to Charlie years ago is called Socialism, The Real History from Plato to the Present, How the Deep State Capitalizes on Crises to Consolidate Control. We like to keep our subtitles nice and short.
Yeah.
But anyway, my father is a great man. I'm doing my best to walk in his footsteps. He has the heart of David, and I pray that I can honor his legacy. But I wanted people to see a little bit of who I was before I'm out there. I'm booked into next year as far as speaking, and I'll be teaching history from that perspective that we talked about that makes sense of current events. But I thought before I kind of pull the ripcord and get this thing going, a friend like you that was able to see that I'm this, I'm that, I'm a few things kind of smushed into one package, and you've given me a chance to share some of that. So I'm really grateful, Mike.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for you taking the time to come out here and share your story and letting the audience get to know a little bit about Mike. I think you're doing a great job walking in your father's footsteps, and also while following in your father's path, you're carving out your own, and I think it's amazing.
Well, my goal is to be a unifying figure. We have enough people that are dividing, and if you look throughout history, before any Philip of Macedon was one of the best to do it. So there's a term called fifth column warfare. I'll just mention this one little bit of history so people don't think I'm solely a nutritionist. But Philip of Macedon was the father of Alexander the Great, and he was known for employing fifth column warfare. Well, what is that? Well, you'd have your two columns, you'd have two flanks. Where was the fifth column? The fifth column was in the enemy's camp, stirring up division and sowing discord. So by the time the real enemy arrived, they were so divided they couldn't mount a defense. I want to mention that here in the United States, what we're battling, this division that we see, it is not an organic thing. This is the product of seeds of division that were planted post-World War II. What I mean by that, just in a quick sense, is World War II. The United States, the military strength is on full display for the world to see. Enemies of the United States say, hey, look, if you want to defeat the United States, you don't do it on the battlefield. You sow division. You go, you observe groups, and then you pit people against each other. Yuri Bezmenov, that book Socialism I mentioned, chapter 57, it's about Yuri Bezmenov. He's a KGB defector, a Russian secret agent, if you will. And when he defects, he goes on this show, G.W. Edwards' show, and he starts to tell, this is in the 1980s, he tells what he's been doing in America. And he says, well, we're going to sow division. We're going to do it by infiltrating your school systems and infiltrating your media. And so when you look at the world today, and you see these polar opposites, and you look back at the 1950s and how we kind of thought of ourselves as one people, there's so many examples I can show about, like since Philip of Macedon, this is a tactic, this is a technique. This is what's being done in the United States. We are all one people. We need to remember that. I love the person who agrees with me as much as the person who doesn't, because I know views and beliefs change. It's the essence of you that I'm trying to get to know. That's why this podcast is so special, is because we're trying to get to the heart of people. But so Yuri Bezmenov states that, look, the first stage is going to take some years. We basically have to get a generation from when they're young to when they're into adulthood to start to say, this isn't a great place to live. And then they start doing it to others. And then now it's Americans doing it to Americans. Look, guys, we're all one people. We can't make politics devolve into all-out warfare. We can't fight each other. We're all one. And if you need the historic proof of that, we can provide that to you.
Yeah. You're a good man, Mike Federer. You're doing great things. And as you said, you're booked out for the year, but where can people find you on social media? And if they want to book you for a speaking engagement or
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
AmericanMinute.com for all things Bill Federer. My father is incredible. The best I can describe it is he's the tea leaves. He's the concentrated source of everything. I've been steeped in his message long enough to become some sort of tea. But you can go to AmericanMinute.com to connect yourself to our social media. Instagram is growing quickly. It's the American Minute. There's an underscore, the underscore American Minute. But we post weekly lessons there. And then for some of the stuff that most of our production value goes into right now is under the Turning Point Education umbrella. So turningpointed.com, we put out a weekly video called How We Got Here, and it's just that, from a historic perspective. The first season was students asking questions, and then my father would respond and say, this is how we arrived here. This year, to celebrate the 250 years of America, we are basically teaching about figures that have lent themselves to this 250 years of really, truly incredible history. And it's so unique when you look at that 6,000 years that's been written down to see what we have here in the United States. We are the paragon of freedom in the world. Anything that happens here is going to affect the rest of the world. So we need to be good stewards of our nation, of our communities, and of our family.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful way to wrap this episode up. Unification, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, my good brother, for coming out here and participating in this episode of The Inner Circle.
This was so much fun, Mike, and I've thanked you several times, but I wasn't ready to get out there until I could share a little bit of my story. So thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. It's been such a pleasure. I'm so blessed. And make sure to follow Mike Federer on all of his links. That's a wrap.